Matt Aguilar here from ComicBook.com. Today I have the esteemed pleasure of speaking to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers writer and Radiant Pink co-writer, Melissa Flores. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And that's really just like the tip of the iceberg. You got so much going on.
Oh, I've been very lucky. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sleeping, but I am enjoying most of my waking hours when I'm not stressing out about it.
Yeah, understandable. And there's so much going on. Plus, just in the Power Rangers side of things, but also the Massive Verse and all
hmm
that keeps popping. So yeah, let's start with going to Power Rangers and checking in on that because the last few issues have there's been some cool reveals. There's been some cool things teased. We obviously got the kind of a big identity reveal in the last issue. And so, moving into 108.
Okay, thank you. I was like, this is so embarrassing. I'm so many issues ahead writing wise, and it's been a minute. So I was thinking, I'm like, crap, what was the last issue?
Moving into kind of looking at 107
Yeah.
was because I think the reveal was like it caught people off guard because I think it's like super hard now to catch people by surprise. Um, and because people,
Yeah.
I feel like readers especially are like always trying to kind of think a couple steps ahead and look for all the Easter eggs. Do you what was kind of your main goal with positioning Zordon, or at least who we think is Zordon, as that character and kind of the lead up to it?
So we can talk spoilers now, right? Like
Yeah,
since
yeah.
we since issue okay, so we're talking about the vessel being Zordon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was always going to be the case. I've always been really fascinated by the dichotomy and relationship between Zordon and Rita. I thought was and Zed by extension. The trio has always been really interesting to me. And at the very beginning, um, there was always discussion with the editors, Daphne and Allison, about what those key figures would look like and who the vessel would be. And we wanted somebody very particular for that. And for for us it just made sense. Like if you remember the opening pages of 101, it's Zordon being trapped in the time warp by Rita. And that was always on purpose. We were reminding people of that scene because we were setting up this moment to reveal the vessel was Zordon. And so that was always the case. I'm a big believer that a twist is only as good as the trail of breadcrumbs you left before it. And if some people figure it out, that's okay. um, and some people are surprised. That's good too. Like I noticed that a lot of people had already figured out that it was going to be, or guessed correctly that it was going to be Zordon. But that was because we literally made it very blatantly clear that this was a possibility, and so I was really happy about that. But yeah, we wanted this idea that Zordon had been in control of Rita's destiny for so long, in terms of putting her in the time warp, and in terms of chasing her for so long, and that they've had this relationship, and Rita is just having this daddy issue crisis at the moment. That while we're exploring this like sexually tension fueled feud that she's got with Zed, we're also kind of exploring the relationship that she had with Master Vile and how that has screwed her up, and the pseudo fatherly relationship she has with Zordon that has also screwed her up in a very different way. And having Zordon as the vessel, for her, I could see that being the ultimate trophy.
Right.
Here is here is my trophy. Plus, uh, Daphne is a huge Zordon fan. Like she freaking loves Zordon, and she pushed hard for it. So, and it's very hard for me to say no to Daphne. She's a very passionate woman, and and extremely persuasive when it comes to her arguments. And so yeah, that's how that happened.
I gotta say, it has been fascinating to see Zordon go through. I mean, we've seen him now get this like super slick warrior, like
Yeah,
robot body, and then we've seen him in the past, and like it was like sexy Zordon for a while, and now
yeah.
it's like this. I feel like of the Power Rangers comics have been so many characters have benefited from the
Yeah.
comics and how they've explored people, but I think few have benefited more than Zordon.
He's such a fascinating figure because there's just so much lore teased about him that's just not really explored because Power Rangers isn't really about him.
Right.
And so that gives a lot of runway for writers, I think, to really have fun and build the world of Power Rangers out through him and how he's affected. Because really, if you think about, he's thousands and thousands of years old, the kind of life he must have led to get to this moment, and what he's asking Rangers to do, and then just being stuck in this tube. It for a character, uh, for that's a lot to process, and I think it's very catnipy. I think for a writer to want to explore that and see who this person was before and during and after. And I like it's funny because I had like I remember getting into arguments with our editors because like at some I think at one point I was like, I'm so tired of Zordon. Like, can we please just not do Zordon anymore? And they're like, no, but it's important to the story. And I'm like, okay, fine. But truly, I don't want to talk too much about it because 108 actually is about the vessel, and so I don't want to spoil anything unintentionally, but I truly it became one of my favorite issues, even though I was just like, man, Zordon again. Like it truly became one of my favorite issues because it's a differently structured issue because it talks about the vessel and the vessel doesn't speak. Um, and really focuses on Zordon and just like what 104 focused on Rita and how she came to the decisions that she made and how she became Mistress Viola and what that pertained, how that informed her journey. You're kind of see the same thing for the vessel and by extension Zordon. And so that was really fun to kind of put those two ends together before everything goes to shit, or to hell. I don't know if I can curse on this one. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. um, it's you mentioned Rita and Mistress Vile and that whole transformation. That that character has rarely felt as legitimately deadly
Yeah.
and lethal. And it's been cool to see. It's been cool to really see her. There's a couple shots, like the artwork has been fantastic, especially in that last issue. There was, the shot of just her glowing eyes in the shadows, and they've done so much with the character to make her feel like a presence. And
Oh yeah. I'm so lucky to have the artists that we have. Boom, the editors, Allison are just so wonderfully good at finding this talent. And it's not easy to write a Power Rangers book. There's a lot of action and a lot of details and a lot of uh, form that you have to stick to. It's not like a creator owned where you're like go to town, do whatever you want. Like they have designs and they have to make sure they work. And I've been very lucky one to have the majority of these designs designed by Dan Mora, who's absolutely amazing, and two to have artists like Simona and colorists bring these stories to life in really unique ways. I these last couple issues, 107, not necessarily 108, but 109, these are very horror informed issues. Where you have these like it's very I think I was using like Resident Evil almost as the first movie as a reference in that she's these two incredibly powerful beings are in hallways and just stalking prey, and there's nothing these people can do. They know like, oh shit. And for Grace, it's her chickens coming to roost, right? It's her hubris like kicking her ass. And they capture that tone perfectly. I remember in the script I was just like, she looks up at the camera and you just know your fox like and and with Italians, there's always they're incredible because I speak Spanish, but I don't read it as well. I don't read Spanish as well as I should. And so um their ability to knowing that it's not their first language, their ability to take these scripts and transform them and really get to the heart of what these and add their own personal flares that surprise me every time. is truly incredible. I admire artists so much. I could never do what they do, and I'm so lucky to have the artists that I have working on everything that I work with. Um I've never felt like they've taken something of mine and made it worse. Like they always make it better every single time. And I always find myself looking for ways to cut my dialogue out so that you can see more of what's on the page.
Well, and you brought up Dan, and yeah, I agree. Dan's work is sensational. And did he do the design for Zed's Ranger Zed as well?
He did Ranger Zed, he did Mr. Vile, he did the vessel. There's something else that's coming up soon that he did. Like he pretty much he's the go-to. And we're so lucky that he loves Rangers and that he makes the time for us because he's obviously a very, very busy man. So
Well, and what did you think of the reaction to Ranger Zed? Because that was a big moment, and it also is one of those things that it's like you had to kind of I had to go back and go like, how has that not happened until now?
I
Like
mean, I
it took me
understand
so
why it
long.
hasn't, I think, to this point. I think it required 6 issues of work to and even more because we used things that were planted there from Ryan and Matt's run. Um, to get him to the point where he felt like that was the necessary case. Zed has always been powerful enough on his own, but it took us like we had to break him in issue 1 and just keep breaking him and have him so consumed with vengeance and need and hatred for Rita and what she's done to him for him to ever get to the point where he was just like, okay, screw it, I'm going to be a ranger now. Like that's the only way to heal myself and to get the extra power that I need to take on both the vessel and Mistress Vile because I am no longer powerful enough. And I'm hoping, there's 2 different reactions to when you see something like that. There's people that are reading the comic books and are genuinely excited by it because you see that the moment has felt hopefully fingers crossed earned. And then you see other people that are like, oh, this show's like Oprah, everybody gets a morpher. Right. So and if you're not paying attention to the books and not everybody is, and that's completely everybody's prerogative, right? So, but at the end of the day, I'm just hoping that it's a fun moment that people can enjoy and truthfully I don't actually know what the reaction was all that much just because I think it just happened to be that 107 and the reveal of Ranger Zed came out the same day. I think that the trailer for Once and Always came out,
Yeah,
so a lot of people were focused on that, justifiably so. So I actually don't know. I think but I what I have read is people seem to be super into it, and that makes me happy. I love Ranger Zed. I think he looks really cool. I really want to see a figure for him and cosplay. I think Dan killed the design, absolutely gorgeous, and I love that I worked really hard to get him there, and that it when I turned to I think I remember saying that was my favorite It's Morphin Time ever, where I was able to turn the page. He says it's Morphin Time. There's this beautiful splash image of him just looking badass and crazy. Um, that was like, okay, this was worth it. This was really fun. I personally had an amazing reaction to it. And I'm like, you know what? That's enough. And hopefully everybody likes it too. I think I live in a constant state of fear of like, I'm gonna do the one thing that the fans don't want me to do, and they're all gonna turn and hate me. But but I think I made my peace with that moment where I was like, you know what? Even if everybody isn't into this, I'm into it, and that makes me happy.
absolutely. I feel like you that's just like a necessity in this world in general. Like I just have to be okay with what I'm doing, and some people aren't going to like it, and that's fine.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I hope
especially, as I'm being blessed with writing these more and more iconic characters, I think you have to, as a writer, make peace with the fact that you're going to put your own spin on things and not everybody's going to agree with them. And that's okay as long as it makes sense to you. And me personally, I love Rangers so much. I know what my interpretation of Rangers is and what it means to me. And I'm hoping um, that even just little bits of it resonate enough that it feels true for fans. And it's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
well, and what can obviously without getting into major spoilers and stuff, but there's already been a couple things teased for kind of the future of the Rangers over the course of the year. What can you
Yeah.
tease about what's kind of coming up?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been a big press release about it, but it's been talked about at least. So I guess I can talk about it a little bit. We're going into an event called the Darkest Hour, and that is what has this the first 10 issues lead towards this moment called the Darkest Hour, and it has been teased what this is, which is, Rita is on a war path to access the grid and bring back Dark Spectre. That is her goal. And everything that she has been doing up until this moment has been in anticipation and in pursuit of that goal. And until this point, the Rangers have been one step behind this whole time. And they're trying their best. But because they don't have all this information, um, they're not as successful as they could be. And she's just so dang powerful. So um so what you're seeing is a bunch of different chess pieces being put on the board in different places. And so that is where these unlimited books have come in, where you see the Draken story written by Adam Cesare, where you see the Hyperforce story. Like, these are completely different stories that are out of my main series, but have very specific ties and ramifications for what happens in the main series. And so this is truly this is a 30th anniversary event that I'm working really hard uh, to hopefully celebrate the franchise in a really fun way, but in a really a dark way, because Rita is in pursuit of a very dangerous goal, and it's going to um, affect the Morphin Grid and affect the Rangers in a way that hasn't necessarily happened before. And that's what we're doing. We're doing really fun stuff like that, bringing back fan favorite characters, finding ways to weave them organically into the story, and creating new Rangers or new villains or however we want to do it in a way that feels satisfying but not overwhelming. That's the goal.
Well, it's been a pretty good year so far for Ranger fans. So that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great through line for the rest of the year. Um, I had to do a double take when I saw the Hyperforce
Yeah,
announcement, because that's just been like a dream on the horizon that I just kind of
yeah,
put out of my brain. So I
yeah.
was like, that's not happening. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
How did that come about?
Um, I honestly I asked. um, I I didn't have the bandwidth to do it myself, and I was already co-writing Radiant Pink with Megan, and we worked together really, really well. And she was Hyperforce Pink, so it was uh, a natural next step to ask that she co-write it with me. But literally, it was me just asking, "Hey, can I do this?" And it was for a very specific reason. And then it was just months of waiting for Hasbro to say yes, because obviously I don't own the franchise. I have nothing to do with Hyperforce anymore. I have no idea how they view it, what they think
Right.
about it. But it was one of those things that the minute that I got asked to write the series, the fans started asking for it.
Yeah.
And it really hurt me that I wasn't able to make a season 2 happen. Because we were told that we were going to get a season 2, and it was for that reason we ended on a cliffhanger. And then the sale to Hasbro happened, and that plus a lot of other things just completely went into the crapper. A lot of the design, the projects that were very near and dear to my heart, and I always felt really bad about it because I loved Hyperforce, and it was again one of those weird swings that nobody really knew what it was or what it was going to do, but it has the way it's endured over the past 5 years and the way people keep finding it. I really wanted to pay back some of the kindness that the fans have shown and the love for Hyperforce, if like, and at the very least in this one shot, and give them just one more story that hopefully answers some questions. And maybe if there's enough enthusiasm, proves to Hasbro that there's more there that they could use Hyperforce for. but it's thankfully it took some doing, but and some Herculean efforts from my amazing editor Allison, but we were able to get the approval and move forward. But I'm just hoping that the fans, I mean, there's only so much we can tell in a 40-page one shot, right?
Right.
But I'm hoping that the fans will at least be excited to at least see them one more time and see how they tie into this main event, because I call them the bad news bears of Rangers. Like, I just truly love the team, and they're just so
Yeah.
silly. And so we went, and because I have Megan on board, it comes naturally. We really tried to maintain both the dark stakes of the event and also of the Hyperforce events, because when we last saw them, they basically botched they lost,
Yeah.
with the crazy humor and optimism and fun that was the Hyperforce season. And I think it came together in a really fun way. And we have Federico Sabatini on board, who does Moon Knight for Marvel, and he and I initially worked together on Dead Lucky. Ultimately, he wasn't able uh, to go on and move on with the series, and then we ended up with the amazing French Carlo Magno, who is the main series and co-creator on the Dead Lucky. But Federico initially designed the suit for me, and so that's how I knew him. And so when they were looking for new writers, I suggested him because I always wanted to work with him again, and thankfully he was available. And the art has been amazing because he's amazing, and it's been really fun. So I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
Well, and even if it's um, a one shot deal, and this ends up being, it for a while or for a minute, I think it's awesome that there's going to be like that one more thing. And I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think the fans, like, Hyperforce is like, Power Rangers itself is a dedicated community that I am proudly a part of. But Hyperforce is like four steps, like, I feel like it's like four steps above, like that community. Just like, like, I'm part of a Facebook group that like still like is still there about the show and stuff. So it's awesome that there's something coming. And you mentioned you and Megan, and you guys have been doing great work on Radiant Pink.
Yeah.
The Radiant universe is one of my favorites. There's just so many cool characters in that mix. And Eva especially is such a breath of fresh air. And this series has been really fun, like all over the map. Giant cats,
Yeah.
giant semi-evil cats, or not even evil, just like, I mean, yeah, they're kind of evil, but like, it's been super fun. How have you enjoyed the ride to this point, and then what can you tease about the finale, which will be coming up later this month?
Oh, it's been a blast. Again, writing is a very isolating experience, and I come from the world of producing, which is all team-based oriented. So it was always an adjustment for me to go from this team thing where I'm talking to all these people about this cool thing we're doing to this like this period of isolation where I just sit there and write a script. And to co-write with Megan, who's one of my favorite people in the world. I like when we first met 5 years ago, I had no idea she was going to end up being like a sister to me. And so to be able to work with her on this kind of journey, on something that's so deeply personal to her, because she takes a lot of she puts a lot of herself in Eva, in terms of her own mental health struggles and her own love life. And I was there for a lot of it, so it means a lot to me too, to see the journey. And and we're putting it together, and we're doing some very serious issues of mental health, and being it's saying it's okay not to be okay, and really accepting that maybe you need some time, um in this really like fun, silly, frivolous kind of book where you have slime monsters and big cats and don't have opposable thumbs, and it's just so special to me, because we can get really silly and really crazy, but at the backbone, at the heart of it, is this like love story. Um and you think it's about a love story between Kelly and Eva, but really it's about Eva learning to love herself and put herself first. And it's been really, really cool. We actually just got through the proof for 5, and like Megan cried. Like it's I think a really great ending to the miniseries, puts Eva in a really interesting place. I have a big soft spot for Kelly, and puts her in a really interesting place. And it's honestly really a really special little miniseries. We're so lucky to have Emma on board to do, and Rebecca, um, because the art is so different and so uniquely her, and unlike anything else you see in the Massiverse, that I don't think anybody else could have done this series justice the way she has. And it was really a great team of all women who just Becca kills the lettering every time, any book. And I'm a wordy girl. I write a lot of dialogue, so I'm sure she hates me a little bit sometimes, but it really is a special miniseries. I was so happy. I'm gonna miss working on Eva's journey, because I fell in love with her as a character. I fell in love with uh what she's trying to do and who she is, and her pure heart. And that last issue, I think, really touches on where she's broken as a person and what she's trying to fix. And I think it'll be a really interesting twist. On right. Did issue 4 come out yet? Issue 4 came out,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're home, right? So that's the
Mhm.
end of issue 4. They got back to Earth. And so now here comes the real world. And so it's a much less frivolous book than maybe the last few, but with good meanings. This is the end of a really powerful arc for Eva, and I'm excited to see what people think about it.
Well, I know I gotta let you go. But
Really?
you know, I feel bad because I was always like, oh, because I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about this forever. But if because
That
this
went really
brings
fast.
things to right, oh well, good. I'm glad.
I thought we had an hour. I was like, oh, okay.
No, I wouldn't. I remember last time we kept you for like an hour, and I think it was like an hour and 15 or hour and 20. I was like, oh, I feel bad because like I said, it was gonna be like a shorter one. So I was trying to make up the time. But
You're all good, man. I enjoy talking to you.
oh well, good. Well, thank you.
It's
I
the end of
love
my
talking to
day,
you.
so you're totally cool.
um, do because this seems to kind of bring this particular story to a close. But how do you, is there like other ideas you guys already have for if another opportunity comes up in the future? Will she kind of move more into the main book? What is the future for these two past
That's
this?
up to Kyle, because I mean, Dead Lucky is my book. I get to decide what happens to Bibi and where she goes. But Eva is a radiant, and so that, and Kelly is a character that lives in Eva's world. So really, that is all up to Kyle. What I will say is, if he ever gives me an opportunity to play with her again, I absolutely will. I've freaking love that character, and I will never say no to writing in the Massiverse, because I love the series so much. And you just saw, I mean, he just did this amazing thing in
I
this
gotta go
last
vote.
issue. That he's been literally teasing that for more than a year. I remember when he was first telling me about it. Like he thinks that he's crazy. He thinks that far ahead. And and so yeah, that is, that is his world. I just play in it, just like I play in Power Rangers, and but I, of course, I would absolutely love to see her. We purposely put her in a place that she could be used by him. And I know he loves the character, and I know he has plans with her, and I know he actually really loves Kelly too. And we, the intention with Kelly was always to create a character that he could use, like Shift, like a Cell, like just a character that is going to exist on the board for him to pick up and play with as he wants. And that was always the intention with Kelly. So I'm sure that's not the last we're ever going to see of them. But I know that he's got quite an event coming in Radiant and Radiant Black, and I'm sure that at least Eva will figure in that somehow. I don't know how, but whenever he calls me and asks me if I want to do something, I always say yes. So I'm hoping that eventually I'll come back and do something else with her.
Yeah, it's a bittersweet thing because I've really enjoyed seeing her kind of fly solo
Yeah.
from the other, as far as the other Radiants. But when she was kind of with the other group, it is so cool to see like all of them all interact with each other. And I'm a
Yeah.
big Radiant Red fan as well, so like just seeing
Yeah, she's
them,
badass.
oh my
I love
gosh, it's
Satomi.
awesome. And Yellow's
Yeah.
great too. Like this is awesome. I also got a vote in the thing, and
Yeah. Who
spoiler,
are you voting for?
Nathan. Nathan all the
Same.
way.
Same. Yes, Team Nathan.
I appreciate Marshall for things, but like, and there's that moment in this last issue where like he's like, I'm afraid like you know, hurt people and like unintentionally, and I understand. I was very like torn in that part because like I understand you, Marshall, I get it, but like, dude, like Nathan is so much better qualified to do this. So yeah, I will,
Nathan
but I
literally
will.
already died for it. Like,
And and then you're like, okay, well, Marshall brought him back, and that was amazing, and that was like, you know, it was kind of a redemptive thing in a lot of ways. But like, then you look at Sitz, and and you're like, Nathan just approaches things in such a different manner. So yeah, I gotta vote, and I also just think the voting thing in comics can be so cool, you know, when it's not like when it's utilized correctly and not like, oh hey, you don't like this Robin, let's kill him. Like when it's not that, voting is cool in comics. Um,
he has an incredible vision for what's coming, and I can't wait for people to see it.
I am very stoked.
He's a visionary, and they all are, all of them. Like every single one of these guys, I just feel so little sometimes compared to them. Like Ryan and Matt, they're just all so freaking smart. I think it's the beards, but they're just like their visions for their stories. Like working with them on Supermassive was such a humbling experience because again, I'm a producer. I come from being telling them what to do and then to go the other way and be the writer and have to like not have to like be humbled enough to be able to work with them on something
Right.
like that. It was truly a dream come true, but they are so smart and so good at story, and I'm just really honored to have a place among them.
Well, as someone from the outside, I will say that the entire Radiant team is killing it. So you are very much a part of that, and you
I
guys have been
appreciate
doing
it. Thank you.
some wonderful things. So yeah, so obviously, I would love to touch base. Hopefully, we get to touch base later as some of the issues come out after Radiant Pink's kind of concluded, and we see what things that holds. But you know, in the future, also all the best success. You're
Oh, thank
doing
you.
great stuff, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's going to be fun. There's some things that I haven't announced yet that I'm really excited about that I'm working on, and obviously Dead Lucky's coming back after Supermassive, and so yeah, it's going to be fun, and I'm really excited about this Dead Lucky arc too. So it'll be fun.
So much going on, man.
Yeah,
Never stops. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you for having me anytime.